sitting here with HellPie. Their unique sound makes them one of my favorite bands to rock out to, especially live. They have 4 full-length albums, Long Gone into Oblivion, Here's to Your Health, Love to Burn, and Infernal Slice, available on Bandcamp and on their merch tables at their shows, which I highly recommend. Welcome, Eddie, Bones, Danny. Thank you for taking the time to sit down and chat with me.
Yeah.
Thanks for having
Honored
us.
to be here.
Awesome.
Good to be here.
The first time I saw you guys was at the hoedown at the last drop.
Yeah.
And caught me right away. But I remember at one point you said, does anybody remember what happened in Fukushima, Japan? And I'm like, I'm the only one who like raised my hand. I'm like, me. And then you launched into the song, and I was like, okay, these guys write with intent. So that was like, just off the bat, that was like the thing that caught me the most, was like, all right, I'm really listening to your lyrics.
Right.
So give me a little history of HellPie. How long have you guys been playing together?
See,
I did the math last night, and it was
You came
me and Eddie
prepared.
met 15 years ago. Well, we started HellPie 15 years ago, and our first CD was 2011.
Mm.
So it's about 2009. We were in started as a cover band and didn't like that. And
I think everybody starts as a cover band
Yeah,
at some point,
yeah. And then we just completely redid things.
yeah, that was my first cover band. Because up until then, I just write songs and albums and stuff. And then that band that I was in at the time, Cock Farm,
Nice. Love the name.
had a falling out. So I was on hiatus, and I was sleeping on my couch, and Mike Robinson called me and was like, "You want to be in a cover band?" And I was like, "Not really." But I was like, I've never been in a cover band, so gave it a shot. So we did that, and we put 3 hours worth of music together and played a couple shows, made a little bit of money.
What were you covering?
It was heavy stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, anything from like Slayer and
Maiden.
Disturbed and
Yeah.
Maiden. We did
Godsmack.
System of a Down.
Right
yeah.
on.
A lot of different stuff. It's hard to find. I don't like singing songs that I can't actually personally get behind the
Mhm.
message. So it's like, I'm not going to play it just because you want to hear it. I've got to be able to mean it when I'm singing it. So it was hard picking all the songs, but we finally got them together. But we did a handful of shows, and we're like, we can spend our energy better. So me and him and Danny, who was actually the lead guitar player at the time, jumped to writing songs for HellPie, and Danny jumped on bass. The original Danny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The OD.
So then we put together Infernal Slice and started playing shows at that point. So that's how we got started. We just got tired of playing covers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it wasn't your typical Southern Maryland cover band. We were doing really heavy stuff.
Yeah. I don't think I've...
So it couldn't have stood out. It wasn't your Pour Some Sugar on Me. It wasn't your Crazy Bitch. It wasn't your
Right.
typical 3 sets. So.
Absolutely.
But I could tell Eddie was in agony the whole time.
Aw.
So we
Yeah.
did the right thing. And cover bands are great, but when you're writing your own stuff, your heart, your soul is in it, and it's so much fun to play.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Danny, you came into the band.
Gosh, I guess it was almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow, time flies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Summer 2022.
How did you meet these guys?
So I saw an internet posting for a band that needed a bassist, and I've always wanted to be in a band, and
This is your first
this
band?
is my first band. Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah. So I was like, I gotta try, and I looked up the band. I was like, that's a really interesting name. It's pretty funny,
Yeah.
Clearly, they don't take themselves too seriously, like, and so they're probably a cool bunch of guys to hang out with. So looked up the band, immediately loved all of the riffs and everything like that going on the albums. And they gave me 10 songs and said, learn these. So I learned them by ear as best I could. Showed up at practice. Some things were a little off, but, we rolled with it, worked on some stuff, learned a set. And then, we've just been doing shows every so often. And I've been really enjoying it. They've been an absolute blast to play with and work with. And
So are they as funny as advertised?
Yes. Yeah.
That show you saw us play was actually his first show ever.
I remember you saying
Yeah,
that.
the last drop was that was the first time I'd ever been on a stage
Oh my
since like
God.
violin in elementary school. So
And I wouldn't have been able to tell. I have video from that show. I wouldn't have been able to tell that was your first show ever, like on a stage in front of people, kind of.
Oh, thank you.
And it was a fill-in drummer.
Yeah.
So
That was a
it had
fill-in
so many
drummer.
hits,
That
yeah.
was.
That was yeah, and when I got up there and played that show, I was like, it's like I'd been waiting to do that my whole life, you
Oh,
know? Like
wow.
it was awesome. It felt so natural. I was a little nervous at first,
Sure.
but I really, really just loved it.
You
Right from
came
the
off
gym.
stage, was like, when's our next show?
Yeah, I'm like,
Oh
all right,
my
let's do it
God,
again. Let's do
I
it again.
bet. I bet. Yeah.
Yeah. So
You guys have a lot. Your energy is fantastic, and not just your energy, but also your sound. So for somebody who is not familiar, with HellPie, can you describe your sound? I have opinions, but
It's so hard. I never know
It
how to
is.
answer that question. But no, I don't.
Yeah.
We pull from, I pull personally from, Primus, Faith No More, Slayer, Pantera, up through System of a Down and Mudvayne and anything weird that I've listened to ever,
Mhm.
Crash Test Dummies.
yeah,
Mm.
I used to have that album.
Yeah, whatever it is, it all gets incorporated in there. So I'm nailing down like what we sound like is hard for me. 'Cause
Mhm.
I'm not looking at it in those terms most of the time. I'm just trying to make a song that is a song for what it is. And if it sounds like this song, it sounds like that. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But yeah, I mean, we just pull our influence from everywhere.
It's a blend. Mine's more Zeppelin, Sabbath, Maiden, Priest. And then I think about it a lot with Eddie's writing. I'm used to intro, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, just your typical. And then with Eddie's unique interest in different bands like System of a Down, completely flipped it. So it's not your cookie cutter songs that we're writing.
Yeah.
And like you said, we're blending from Eddie's punk to my classic rock, hard rock background, and our conjoined love of metal. Then Danny brought in some great. We do throw in some covers now and then, so we learn more of his interest as well.
What do you guys cover?
What did we learn?
Ace of Spades.
Yeah, okay.
What did they say?
CKY.
Yeah.
CKY, yeah.
Yeah.
So was that you who
96.
brought Ace of Spades?
I think I just ripped into it at practice one time because since I play the bass and everything, like I was like, oh, that's got a really cool intro. It's just like the
Yep.
pull off
Yeah.
on the A string, I think it is.
Yeah.
And
of course,
then
I came right in with
yeah.
it. So.
Yeah, we've
then-
actually covered that one before, but he brought it back in, and we were like, yeah, we can do that one.
yeah,
And then we did the CKY
96.
96 Bitter Beings, which was all his doing. Like we wouldn't have picked that song, but it was
Right.
like, yeah, that's a pretty groovy song.
Right,
So-
it works.
I was like, have you guys heard this riff? Like, because that riff from 96 is just like,
Yeah.
it just hits so hard. And I was like, you guys have heard this, right? Like, we got to cover this. Like, I feel like Eddie's voice could do it. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you do Ace of Spades like phenomenally,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
and it blends so well with your original stuff to begin with. So
Yeah.
that's where I was going. Like I think when I hear HellPie, I do hear a little bit of Motorhead.
Yeah.
I
It's in
do
there.
hear a little bit of Pantera.
Mhm.
Yeah. So some of that vulgar display of power,
Right.
Pantera.
Yeah. Plus, I listened to like Pennywise and NoFX and stuff too. And he's a big NoFX fan
Mhm.
too. So that's kind of now Bones is outnumbered with the NoFX fan.
So they're wanting to play punk, and I'm putting a Vinnie Paul Pantera groove
Right.
to it.
Yeah.
But it works.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's what makes a band, in my opinion, if everybody listened to the same thing, then I think it would be boring,
Yeah.
like obviously to have certain things in common, but when people bring such different, genres into a pot,
Yeah.
then it makes the sound interesting.
Yeah. Because I've heard a bunch of bands like that we've played with over the years that, everybody in the band likes Whitechapel, for example.
Uh-huh.
And like their whole sound is like, we're trying to be Whitechapel or
Right.
we're trying to be Lamb of God. And it's like, you're doing it. You're sounding like Lamb of God, but
But it's already been
that's
done.
already been done. And how are you going to take that to the next
Sure.
level? How is that in expressing yourself? You basically have to use that to get to where you have your own voice, and then you can use that to create something new,
Correct.
or at least something that you can get behind, like, spiritually and with enthusiasm, where like, this is me talking. This
Well,
is
and also sometimes, that promotes the growth, Yeah, sometimes you can, you start a certain path and then you grow from that. As long as that's happening, I guess it's healthy, right?
Right. I mean, have to start somewhere. Most of the time, when you get together with a new set of guys, the first thing you do is like, all right, what covers do you know already?
Right.
And you play them. And then
That's how you get to know each other musically too.
Yeah.
Right. And you put together music that you love from your heart, and you hope that other people will love it.
Sure.
And if enough do, then, Nirvana didn't think it would be the next big thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Nobody thought Nirvana would be the next
yeah.
big
Was
thing.
the recent guy, Anthony, with the country song. No idea. So you just write from your heart and hope that it touches enough people.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, you certainly have an extensive catalog, which I appreciate because, like I call it my beltway driving music.
Mhm.
And between you guys and Roadzilla, I'm like, I'm covered. You have 4 albums, so let's talk a little bit about those. What do you consider to be your quote unquote favorite HellPie album? And why?
That's so hard.
Yeah. I mean, I think Love to Burn came out pretty good overall.
Yeah.
Like that has the most bang for your buck, I think, through the whole thing.
But not just sonically. I'm talking about the experience of writing it, of producing it, of recording it, and the songs themselves.
Yeah. Well, that was our sophomore album. So that was kind of like we had the process down that was working for us, and we were able to, I would come up with a couple tracks, and Danny Pruitt would come up with a couple tracks, and we would hash them out, and then I would change parts of his songs, and he would add parts to my songs, and then we'd be like, okay, good. So our writing process got refined on the second album there, which was Love to Burn. So I think overall that one came out with a lot of continuity, and everything played well with itself, and we did get a good sound out of it. And since then, we haven't really put that many songs together at once. Like that had 10 songs on it. But, lately people don't want to wait for a full album. They don't buy full albums.
Yeah.
They don't have it in their hand and look at it anyway. They want a new streaming song. So we stopped trying to hold out for a whole album, and we started putting together, shorter 4 or 5 song CDs after that.
Yeah.
Before we got to the third album is when Danny passed away. So the next album was an acoustic album, because we were like, well, we can't do the same thing anyway, so let's try something completely different. So we put together, was it 5 songs,
Yes.
acoustic songs?
Yep.
And we recorded that with John, who was kind of our interim bass player, but he ended up sticking around for a little while. We did that album, which we hardly ever play any of those live. There's one song that we convert to electric and play it live every once in a while, which is Here's to Your Health, the title track of that one. But I would say Love to Burn came out the best because it was our sophomore attempt, and everything that we stumbled through on the first one, we kind of got into rhythm on the second one.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I agree. Love to Burn. Just a writing process. Everyone was in tune, but also that's when we were playing at every weekend. So it was touching a lot of people, those songs.
Yeah.
And playing some big rooms. And yeah, just like every weekend, we had a promoter at Winchester area with friends in Baltimore, Frederick. So we were just hitting all 4 corners, Southern Maryland, hitting all 4 corners of the DMV, and just nonstop. So it touched a lot of people. Like you said, the next one was Here's to Your Health, which I loved probably secondly because there's so many layers of percussion on it. This is something I think we just always dreamed of doing, but we're metal guys, so we would never do it. But the chance came about, and Eddie has some great songs in the back of his head, and we just layered just so much percussion on it. So I was able to pull from my back pocket that stuff I've wanted to do for so long.
Which one's your favorite, Danny, since you're new?
Yeah.
I would say, well, obviously, since I wasn't involved in any of the production, writing, or recording or anything like that, I would say just as far as, I don't know, because there's so many. I mean, we kind of play songs from each of the albums, And I mean, there's a lot of songs that are really fun to play on Long Gone.
Mm-hmm.
But the riffs on Infernal Slice are just so raw.
Yeah.
And like, there's something about that album that I think that was the first one I listened to, and I looked up the band, and that was the one that kind of grabbed my attention.
Sure.
And then when I found Love to Burn, I mean, that's the one with You Never Know on it, right? I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that song, like, I mean, I feel like that album Love to Burn has so many just like classic songs that when we play live, like everyone just
Right.
kind of goes nuts. Like, you never know when that constant bass drumming syncs up with the pedaling of the bass and the guitar, and everything is just like, it's just, you can't help but move.
Sure.
And I think Love to Burn has a lot of those kinds of songs on it. And so it'd probably be either Love to Burn or Infernal Slice, but really hard to decide.
Yeah. Infernal Slice had a lot of standard tuning on it. We only had, I think, one song that was drop D.
Yeah.
So it definitely, that was the main difference between the first album and the second album. The second album's like all drop D with like one standard song. The other one was all standard with one drop D song.
Drop D song.
So you're like, what happened? How's there? I don't know what the difference is, but I can hear it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the main. We were like, let's try to do a whole album in drop D.
Yeah, pardon the pun, but yeah, each has its own ingredients and taste to it.
Sure.
Definitely.
So,
Well, I mean, but again, that's just a sign of growth, right?
all right.
You would want it to be that way. For every album to be somewhat different. I mean, still the HellPie,
Yeah.
you know,
Stand up.
stamp, but
Yeah.
right.
But you want it to stand alone. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And
It's like having to watch a series. If you don't watch the first series, you don't know what's wrong in the second series.
Right.
You don't want that. You want to be able to start watching it wherever.
Or watching Lord of the Rings in like the wrong order.
Right.
I think that also Long Gone was, at least from my point of view, and obviously I wasn't here still, but the songwriting on it was, there's a lot of like serious topics.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, that was one of the things that I found super interesting. Like when I joined this band, again, you know, I was like, okay, clearly these guys, you know, don't take themselves too seriously, like to have fun. But, you know, you start listening to a lot of the lyrics in the songs, and they're talking about very real and serious things that the world faces.
Correct.
And I think that that's a really cool sort of just, I guess,
That's
what's
me,
the word for it?
that's
Well-
me being sneaky.
Yeah.
And thank you for bringing that up, because that was actually my next question. Your lyrics are socially and morally conscious.
See.
So where do you draw inspiration for songs like Rubber Bullet or Rise?
Current events. I basically, I'm trying to say something that's slightly vague enough where you can interpret it how you want to, without pushing my particular opinion about it
Mm-hmm.
onto you,
Mhm.
but try to represent both sides of what's going on at the time. And then, you know, try to, I don't, I try not to like try to come to a point about it. I guess that's the way I do it. Like I try to touch on a bunch of stuff that is relevant without pushing a point of view on you. And that way you can take it for what it is and interpret it one way or the other. And then, you know, I do a lot of my inspiration is from, you know, either paranormal or sociological or spiritual or current events,
Mm-hmm.
all kind of mixed in together. But yeah, for the most part, I just try to keep it as vague as possible without being completely like pointless.
Right.
We gotta rise. We gotta get together and rise, man. Rise. bottom we will rise. I'll be forever swept aside. From the moment we rise to the time we have to die. We're fighting me.
No, but it's good. Like a song like Rubber Bullets, for example. I mean, like you touched on a lot of things that are happening right now.
Yeah.
Um,
That was my most like specific song I've ever put lyrics to. Was it had everything to do with what was going on like right then.
right.
So
And I
yeah.
love the video too.
Yeah.
that was
I watched that video a few dozen times probably.
yeah, that
Even
was my buddy
it
Moose.
doesn't show any division. It just shows everybody going through this.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So another thing is your album covers all have a theme. Is it the same person who's done all your album covers?
Except for the first one. The first one we put together.
Yeah, just a rusty saw blade
Right.
and a pan of blood, a paint.
No, you
and-
didn't use real blood? Come on.
Just a little trickery, and it was like, wait, this'll work. And it was our first do-it-yourself CD.
Yeah.
Of course, with Mike Bozier, Oblivion. We can get into that later. But, yeah, and then...
Yeah, after that, the guy, my friend Steve McCarthy from New Republic Printing down in, I think they're currently in Alabama. I've known him since I was a kid, and he's the one that prints our shirts now.
Okay.
And I asked him, I was like, "You got any artists that want to take a chance on making an album cover?" And he hooked us up with Pete, who's been doing our covers ever since then.
Yeah.
He's with Java Fiend. All these shameless name drops.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Look them
Do
up.
it. Do
Oh, yeah.
it.
But Pete's been doing a real good job, and I'll give him a sketch that looks like a 3-year-old drew it, and I'll be like, "This is kind of what we're going for," and he's like, "Enough said," and then he'll come back with a couple sketches, and we're like, "Yeah, it's going the right direction." I think the funny one was on "Here's to Your Health." We wanted the devil doctor with the clipboard,
Yep.
and the first picture he sent back looked like Robert Goulet as the devil.
Oh God.
and I was like, bro, I like it, but I don't think this one's going to work
Yeah.
in this particular scenario. So we had him redo it. But I still have a picture of the Robert Goulet
That's awesome.
devil. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, he's been great. But as any artist or musician, you give them, like Eddie would give them just a scratch, just
Mhm.
etching, and let the artist be an artist.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and he's just come back with just amazing work. Now, Here's to Your Health. I didn't think we should have the devil girls with nipples.
Right.
So I said,
Oh, that
remove
was-
the nipples, thinking he put a loincloth, and he just erased the nipples.
Oh, that was Love to Burn.
Or Love to Burn.
Love to Burn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh,
That's
these
a
are
weird-
they're missing something.
That's our
Wouldn't
number
that
one
be
comment.
hell, a
Where's
world
the
without
nipples?
nipples? So we were just, that is hell. So
Like, yeah, that's
Oh,
part
okay.
of being in hell. Your women don't have nipples.
right.
Damn it. No, I'm a big sucker for branding.
Mm.
And I love, like, one of the things that I touched up on with the Holy Ghost from the Pink Dream is he has like some really strong branding. But so do you guys. Like, when you see your album cover, you're like, oh, that's HellPie. That's definitely HellPie.
Yeah.
So I wanted to find out about the artist there, because definitely
Yeah,
there's
that was Pete. That's
there's
Pete
a
from Java
theme.
Fiend.
Yeah.
Actually, we took our album. Which one was it? It was Love to Burn, wasn't it? That we took to 98 Rock to do an interview with
Oh,
Matt
yeah.
Davis,
Uh-huh.
and we left him a CD. And I think Amelia the
Yeah.
next day saw it and was like, I haven't seen an album cover like this since the 80s.
Right.
He just left it in the corner. She had no idea what it was.
Yeah.
She was on air. We were heading towards the gig, and I was recording. She was about to talk about Noise in the Basement.
Yeah.
And so I have it recorded somewhere. But she was just thrilled. She didn't play it, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Matt played it.
We can't fault them for that.
Yeah.
No, it's a good, again, yeah, it is very reminiscent of the 80s, but yeah, some of my favorite bands, they use almost the template for, and you recognize KMFDM is one of them.
Right.
You recognize right away a KMFDM album. It wouldn't even have to say KMFDM, okay, that's KMFDM
Yeah.
based on the art. And I feel the same way about you guys.
We just had Pete make us a new logo too, so our logo is going to be changing.
Oh, you heard it here first.
I
That's awesome.
think it was on the last.
it was
flyer.
on the last promo, the promo video we did for your show. Yeah.
Oh, that's right, for the anniversary show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, thank you so much, by the way, for playing that show.
That was fun.
great. Yep.
That was good to have like a different lineup of different bands rather than this is a metal show.
That show was
it
awesome.
It was actually really good.
Well, I'm trying to, and it's what we do here. I'm trying to expose different people to all kinds of things, right? Not just because like, oh, I listen to this music or these are my favorites, but because there's so much talent and a little bit for everyone, right?
Yeah.
So you pointed over there.
Yeah,
We all
remember,
know.
there's so much talent.
Oh, yeah.
No, there is. There's I don't, I say it all the time, and I probably said it in one of my earlier episodes, but this area with the amount of talent, the amount of bands and all different genres, and it reminds me of an Austin or of a Seattle,
Mhm.
Maybe in a smaller scale, but
Yeah.
but still, like, you can go to a show every weekend and see some really good
You
bands.
can.
So for that show, I wanted, okay, not just because these guys are my favorites, but like these are some really good bands that everybody should be going out and seeing, even if it's not necessarily your cup of tea.
Right.
That's how it was. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the variety there was awesome. I mean, there was Tool covers, I think, at one
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, my
and-
mouth dropped.
Yeah,
We all hit
I
the
was.
floor.
What was the band name that did the Knights of Sidonia cover?
Paradox.
When I heard them go into that song, I was
Yeah.
like, "That is such an ambitious cover," and they nailed it. It
Yep.
sounded
Right.
awesome. That was
Yeah.
such a cool show. They were so many talented bands. Just
They're great.
yeah.
Paradox
Yeah, and
is-
some of the bands at Roach Fest that blew me away weren't even the metal ones. They were just
Infinite Pizza
yes,
Yeah.
and Body Meets Soul or
Yeah.
Soul
Yeah.
Meets Body.
that one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're
yeah. So
fa-
you never know what you're gonna. Just go out to shows and support people, and you'd be surprised what you find out there. It may not be your typical genre, but yeah, it was just beautiful to watch.
Definitely.
Yeah. So how do you approach the songwriting? What's the songwriting process like for you? How do you approach a song? Do you like
I-
start with guitar, start with lyrics?
A lot of times we turn on a recorder at the beginning of practice, and
Uh-huh.
then we make up crap for 10 minutes, and then we'll go through it and be like, hey, we can use that. And then we'll take that out and write the rest of the song around 2 or 3 riffs that we went through just off the top of our head at
Wow.
practice.
Just warm up
For the most part,
Yeah.
unless I come up with like a lyric and music idea that goes with, out of nowhere. And then I bring that, and then we try to figure out how to spin that into a whole song.
Okay.
But a lot of times, the riffs we use we're making it up at the beginning of practice and recording it, and then listening to it and figuring out what's good enough to pursue.
Uh-huh.
Either that or I just listen to people's songs and steal them.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, it's tricky to capture the match because we're just warming up, jamming,
Sure.
just feeling it, and then to record it. It's really important because we try to recapture that same feel later.
No, that's good that you record.
Yeah.
Because you could be missing some real magic moments if you didn't. Are you guys working on anything new right now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we got about 4 new songs in the oven.
Okay.
One of them we played at the last show. We're probably going to play today.
Which one?
The Breaking the Simulation.
Oh, great.
So that's
Excellent.
actually one that our young Danny has brought to the table.
Yep.
So he was the major contributor on those riffs,
Cool.
which is kind of how we want to do the albums. Like we usually have, I start some and the bass player starts some, and then we grow them together. So like
Mhm.
there's you can almost tell that this one came from the brainchild of this person, is the brainchild of that person. But yeah, we try to keep it even where it's kind of I'm not doing most of the album, and
Mhm.
then here's a bass player song, you know. So
Right.
we try to keep it even.
Hey man, what's the song called? It's called Breaking the Simulation.
But yeah, we got a couple. We're trying to be in the studio with them in the next couple months. I got to see what the schedule looks like at Oblivion, and then
Okay.
hopefully by the time it gets warm again, we'll have something to put out. But yeah,
Hell
we're
yeah.
always putting new stuff together.
The writing process has been great. I think one of the reasons Eddie and I have been together 15 years, just great communications. Eddie have this great idea in his head. Well, what are you hearing? What are you feeling in the
Mhm.
background? It's kind of anthraxy. Is it punk? Is it metal? Is it reggae? What is it? So his communication, and I'm able to help bring to light that beat that was in his head or that feel.
Sure.
At the same time, giving me freedom to do my thing.
Yeah.
So it's just been great. No problems writing at all. The only problem is you want to write, and then once you start doing shows, you get away from writing.
Yeah.
So it's like, let's write, record, gig, write, record, gig. But great gigs come along, Roach Fest, things like that. So yeah, trying to get these 4 songs down and get in the studio.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited for that, obviously.
Mhm.
and I am one of those people who like actually still likes to buy us. I mean,
Like
I remember
the
like
Awesome.
I think it was Here's to Your Health. You didn't have it. Like I went to the table and I was like, give me everything you got.
Yeah.
You know, like I think it was maybe the first or
I
second
think
time
I
I saw you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
the
yeah, that's
booth
right.
for
I was
that,
talking to you. I was like, give me everything you got, you know?
yeah.
And you didn't have Here's to Your Health. And then the next time I saw you guys at Roach Fest, I was like, you had a copy, and I was like, mine. So I'm still like in the minority where I like having that physical copy of a CD, you know? So I'm excited.
Yeah.
Very excited for
Yeah,
that.
and you listen to it the way it was supposed to be listened to.
Right.
Eddie's always
Yeah, the
thought
order's
ahead, the
important.
order of the songs.
Yep.
This song means more if you put it before that song.
Oh,
So
correct.
important.
forth.
Right.
It's not
So
just.
Correct.
It's not like a standalone thing. Like everything starts and finishes you start somewhere, you end up somewhere else by the end of the album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you have to listen to the whole album in that order. But
And
We've always put the lyrics in the bifold.
Right.
Eddie's got this knack for writing really tiny.
yeah,
It's just amazing.
That's another thing that I miss so much, you know,
Yeah.
like just not being, because I don't, and I have said this here before, I don't listen to a singer. I'm not paying attention to lyrics. I'm paying attention to the bass and the drums first and foremost, and then everything else. So when I hear singing, I'm hearing the melodies. I'm not paying attention to the lyrics. I hear it I hear voice like an instrument, which
Mhm.
it is, but
Yeah.
so the lyrics are kind of like the last thing I listen to. So just to be able to, I can't recall because I don't listen. I can't recall lyrics. So just to be able to grab that booklet and like, you know, sit there and go, you know,
yeah.
word for word.
Right.
Get your
As I'm
magnifying
listening
glass
to
out.
the,
Yeah.
right?
That's what I loved about albums back in that day. Of
Right.
Albums, just laying in your bed and staring at this album while
Yep.
the music plays.
And you're like, oh, what did he say there? Or what did she
Right.
say there? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
yeah, it definitely makes me sad that the album listening is kind of dying out. I
Yeah.
mean, it's pretty much dead now,
Yeah.
really. I mean, but you know, starting with an album, listening to it all the way through, it's a real journey. And
Sure.
a lot of times now, it's like the only thing that gets popular is a single, and that's the only thing people know from a band. And in reality, there's all of this other work and all this other expression that went
Yep.
into all the other songs and the ordering and the artwork and everything. And it's really an experience that I think a lot of people are missing out on these days.
Yeah.
And if they never had that, I mean, I kind of experienced that a little bit. So I had an older sister who put me on to a lot of, she was kind of responsible for like getting me into like punk rock and stuff like
Uh-huh.
that growing up. And like the first real album I ever really sunk my teeth into was American Idiot, Green Day.
Okay.
And that is an album that from the beginning to the end is a journey. Like
Right.
it's it's so creative, and that kind of like set the standard for me of like that album made me an album listener. So a
Yeah.
lot of times now I don't really love to put on playlists a lot. I usually, listen to albums beginning to
Front
end
to
for
back.
the most part. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's I mean, there's something really special about that, and like you said, you know, and then there's the other issue is sometimes the people who pick what the single is going to be. I mean, it may not be
Yeah.
like what I'm into, you know, but then I go and I listen to the album and I'm like, this song is so much better than the one that's on the radio, you know?
Right.
And some people give up on. I don't like that new Slipknot single, but did you hear all the B-sides that
Right.
were just amazing?
Right.
yeah,
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 Yeah, that has a lot of influence. You're right.
yeah, and also listen to albums all the way through. It might take you 2-3 times to listen through a
Mhm.
song, and
Mhm.
now it's your favorite song, but when you first heard it, it was just kind of a blur.
definitely,
Sometimes you got to pound it in.
Yeah.
definitely.
So let's talk a little bit about that. What was the role of music in the early years of your life? Like, what made you want to pick up your instrument? What made you want to become a songwriter?
You first.
Like Dan, an older sibling, turned me on. I was listening to hard rock. He'd picked up a guitar, my brother, and remember my dad was Elvis and Johnny Cash.
Mhm.
Couldn't really get into that. And my brother started listening to Eagles and Zeppelin, stuff like that. And I was like, I kind of digging that. And you'll love this. As a kid, watching the Muppets.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that was major.
along came Alice Cooper. And I was like,
Yeah.
wait, there's a darker side to music? This touched me. It like, finally, I'm passionate about something as a kid. And to think that the Muppets got me into heavy metal things and stuff like that. So it quickly, about the same time, my brother started bringing home Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Scorpions, things like that. Of course, in middle school, high school, I played the drums and one great.
How did you start playing the drums?
I guess because my brother played guitar and I got snare drum and just took to it, and it just worked. And now I'm hanging out with the cool older kids, stuff like that.
Sure.
And then through high school band, now suddenly I have a crew of a lot of friends, similar interest. And my senior year, the Christmas show, supposed to play this little jazz beat. And the instructor said, you'll get a little solo. And I said, I'm still working on it, but here's a little bit of it. And then we played the song. Well, when we went on stage, it went from being a 5-second solo to about a minute and a half.
Oh, wow.
So the principal's climbing up on stage like this, and I look up and the band's laughing, and my conductor's doing this, and I'm just in the zone, right?
Yeah, right.
So I went from zero to hero of high school for the last couple months of my senior year.
Right on.
So that's the
That's
story
awesome.
I love
That
to
is
tell. I
awesome.
wasn't a rebel, but the faculty thought, what is he doing? Make him stop. Because we opened and then it was the chorus, la, 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 la.
Sure.
So they were like, you can't like start a show with all this energy. And then it goes to the chorus and all this. So
Not my fault. That's not my problem.
I beg to differ.
yeah. So sorry to start with that. What's your story, Ed?
It's funny you say Muppets because I think I only figured that out later in life, like how much the Muppets influenced me.
Uh-huh.
Because I ordered like the Time Life RCA collection
Yeah.
where it had the old episodes, and I watched them, and I'm like, you know what? Like this is probably why I started getting so into music. But I didn't I didn't know it at the time. It was like retrospective, you know. I was like, oh wow, that's where I got that from. But I had an older brother that used to listen to, you know, everything down in the basement, Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and AC/DC, a lot of AC/DC.
Mhm.
So I'm like 5 years old and singing Big Balls while I'm walking through the house, and my parents are like,
What? No, you don't.
That's awesome.
and yeah, so I give him a lot of credit. Plus, once I started playing guitar, I started taking lessons when I was 12, and it was mainly because my mom was like, "You need something to do because you're bugging the crap out of me." So
Yeah.
she put me in lessons for a while, and I broke my arm, and I stopped taking lessons, and then I started teaching myself after that point. But my brother bought me he's like, "What do you need?" He's like, he would buy me, you know, tablature books from Metallica
Yeah.
and whatever, you know, if I said anything, he would go out and get it for me.
That's awesome.
So I started learning pieces of Metallica songs, and then I'd get bored of trying to play the whole song. So I'd learn the main riff, and then I'd change it into another riff and write a song off of it.
Right.
So I actually wrote like 2 full albums before I ever learned how to play someone else's song all the way through to the end.
Wow.
Because I was like, I learned enough of your song.
Wow, Eddie.
I'm going to write this song. So I did that. That's how I started writing songs, because my OCD or my, what do they call it? My short attention span wouldn't let
Uh-huh.
me like get through to learning the whole song. So I would just learn as much as I could, and then I'd be like, okay, so that's how those notes work. And then I was like, I can make them work like this. And then I'd write a song out of it. And then I'd take it to my buddy, Mike, who was our stand-in drummer
Uh-huh.
for that one show. He was our sub. I've been playing music with him ever since I started, because he was a drummer and
He did phenomenally, by the
in
way,
high
for
school.
like being the one, you know, the one-off show or whatever.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
He learned those songs in like what?
Well,
2
we also
weeks?
cheated a little bit and played covers that me
Yeah.
and him already knew from playing
That's
before. So
Fine, but
we
Show
actually,
must go on.
we-
Yeah.
We've always been that way.
we were like, learn as many of these as you can, and then whatever ones you didn't, we just
play the Misfits.
We threw in other
Yeah.
songs that are easier to figure out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would write a riff and I'd take it to his house, and his parents were awesome because we would practice in their basement all the time, and they never batted an eye. They
Yeah.
were just like, just stay away from the high notes, make my teeth rattle. But yeah, so that's how it all started.
So how old were you when
I
you
was
were doing
I
this?
was 12 when I started playing guitar.
But when you started writing, you were 12 when you started writing those?
I was probably 13 or 14
Wow.
when I started putting songs together.
That's pretty damn good.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
Yeah.
I think I was around 10, 9 or 10, first drum set. How'd you get?
Yeah. How about
into
you,
it?
Danny?
So I have a lot of musical influences. I think I listen to a ton of different things now, even. But I would say, the main three influences, I had my older sister, like I mentioned, was really into like, she's about 10 years older than me. So she kind of caught that like pop punk kind of revival
Sure.
phase of like the early 2000s.
She's still younger than us.
So those songs were always playing throughout my childhood. And they were always classics to me, and they were always kind of ingrained in my mind of like what I really liked. I really liked fast, energetic music, loud guitars, cool drumming, things like that. And then my dad put me on to a lot of like AC/DC, Van Halen, things like that. Like we love that like hard rock. I would listen to that a lot in the car with him. And Metallica, kind of that kind of vibe. And then my mom was really into like Pink Floyd and even some more like country, like Johnny Cash and stuff like that. So I was onto that too. So I had
You had
many,
a whole bunch of exposure to a lot of things.
definitely, and I love it all, And I think a lot of times people kind of pigeonhole themselves into one thing.
Sure.
And I mean, if you look at my Spotify, it's a complete mess. Like I have like all sorts of different things that I listen to.
What's this Spotify?
But
Eddie, I just got an account at the end of last year. It was my first Spotify account.
So I think it was like those main three influences that kind of shaped my musical journey, I guess. And then in high school, I kind of had like phased out of like listening to punk rock a little bit. Like it was something that I kind of like. I loved Green Day when I was a child, like growing up and stuff like that. But then I didn't listen to them for a few years, and then I kind of refound them again in high school.
Okay.
It was actually it was mostly 15 years after it came out, I put on Blink-182's Enema of the State. I was like, oh, what's the CD? I'll throw it on. Like I didn't even really know what it was, which is kind of crazy because it's like a really huge album. And right when Dumpweed, the first song, came on with just the low E and the riff, I was like, this is really cool. I was like, it's not that technical. I was like, I think I might be able to like do something like that. I was like, I think I might be able to play guitar.
Yeah.
And then so I like picked up my older sister's old guitar, and I started like chopping away at Blink-182's Damn It. And like over and over, I played that song until finally it sounded smoother. I learned a bunch of power chords, learned how to shape it, move it around the neck.
Yeah.
And then, that's kind of what, and then, learning about like how Tom DeLonge from Blink-182 like plays guitar, and how like Mark Hoppus plays bass. That's kind of, they really like formed kind of the way I kind of played, because I just played along to a lot of their stuff.
Wow.
And that kind of made music seem more accessible to me, because before that I was like, oh, you have to be a crazy shredder, virtuoso. And then they were just kind of like inventing these really genius songs that weren't, necessarily the most shreddy, sweet, picky, crazy things at all. And then from there, I kind of traced back to the roots of what made that music, which was like, No Effects and like Lagwagon, a lot of those like earlier 90s, and even back into like the 80s, like, gosh, I'm blanking right now, but like, I mean, even the hardcore stuff or like the Misfits, all of that, I kind of like went backwards, and that's what really made me love punk rock in general.
Good.
And then get into metal. It was all just kind of like, it happened where I was just like digging in and finding old stuff, and I was like, this is really cool. And so
yeah, that's like a big part of appreciating music, is once you start finding what you like now, is going backwards.
Yep.
Like you're like, where did that come from? Then you dig back and you're like, oh, that was their influence, and then you find their influence, and you moving backwards through the history of music is like when you really start appreciating it.
Yeah.
And then you get back all the way to Muddy Waters, and even farther back, you're like, without that happening, like
none of
the
this.
Rolling Stones don't exist.
Correct.
Right.
So it's like, that's awesome part of like actually becoming a music fan, not just like not just listening to music, but like starting to appreciate it for what it is.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then you really start like you said, if Muddy Waters doesn't play music, the Rolling Stones don't exist, and in that format at least, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I used to do the same thing. I would run every time Rip Magazine or Metal Edge or whatever came out. I would run to get a copy and read the interviews, and it was like, okay, they would mention, like I remember, gosh, not that I wasn't a Queen fan, but I remember Axl Rose once talking about Spread Your Wings, song by Queen.
Mhm.
And I was like, I'm going to check that out because he says this is one of his favorite songs. Right. And then now it's one of my favorite songs.
Right.
And not because of him, but it was like, wow, this song is really special. Right. Yeah, just finding that. But you're absolutely right that a lot of punk, I mean, I'm not a shredder by any stretch of the imagination, but I know that at the age of 14, when I started playing the guitar, I could play the Misfits.
Yeah, same.
And I love that. I was like,
Yeah.
I mean, all my friends were listening to the Misfits anyway, but
Right.
it made it accessible for me or to me, so I could play an instrument.
Yeah.
But then finding out that Metallica is a big Misfits fan.
Yeah.
Oh, right on. Or Kirk Hammett is wearing a Sisters of Mercy T-shirt.
Yep.
I want to know who they are. It's cool to go back and find
Yeah.
that.
Well, that's
stuff.
like Jack White went on that whole like rabbit hole thing after White Stripes fell apart, and he started doing that thing. Like he went back, Loretta Lynn.
Yeah.
And like he went way down.
Correct. Yeah.
Back to where they're recording on straight to vinyl.
Yeah.
And it's like backwards is like, it's like the only time it's healthy to go backwards is when you're like investigating music.
Mm-hmm. You can
Right.
see where a lot of it came from, like I think Blink was how I discovered like the Descendants and like Jawbreaker and
right
stuff like
on.
that, because they always talked in interviews about how like they love the Descendants, and I was like, oh, I can hear kind of, you can tell that they're big Descendants fans
Sure.
when you listen to it. And I think, going backwards can definitely kind of like just help you branch out and just learn about bands that you didn't even know really existed. So
Mhm.
it's really cool.
So what was in just keeping up with the same, along the same lines, what was that album that did it for you that you were like, yeah, this is my music?
Sailing the Seas of Cheese.
Yeah.
That was like the first, it was that one and Frizzle Fry, because my sister bought me a U2 album or something for Christmas. It was Joshua Tree or
Mhm.
whatever, War maybe. And I was like, oh, thanks. I'm like, do you mind if I take this to the store and exchange it?
That's a
she's,
really good album.
and she's
though.
like, go ahead. Maybe I should have listened to it, maybe not. But I went and switched it for Frizzle Fry.
yeah,
And then I was like, yeah,
this is more my speed.
this is more of what I'm looking for. And then I got Sailing the Seas of Cheese, and just the fact that like everything in that band's upside down.
Yeah.
The bass is in front of everything. The guitar is the support rather than the root,
Correct.
the foundation.
And they have a kick-ass drummer.
And Herb, the drummer, is like doing things like, I didn't think the drums are supposed to do that.
Yeah.
And so it was like, it makes you change your perspective on possibilities.
Yeah.
Because up until then, it's like he was saying, like there's this and then that and then this, and that's the song. But even just not even the formats of the song, just the roles each instrument actually plays can change.
Sure.
So that was where I kind of kicked off into a different direction. It was like, I like the stuff that you like too, but do you like this weird stuff? And they're like, nah. I was like, well, then we're not friends anymore.
So you really like when Paradox covered Tweakers.
Oh, I had to jump up. Like, I couldn't help it. I was like, I've never heard anybody cover
Me
this
either.
song. Like, I was literally jumping up and down
Yeah.
because I was so proud of them for doing that.
Yeah,
I
me
was
either.
like,
And
you
and-
guys are all right.
not just that, I've never heard anybody cover Primus, period.
Hmm.
But when I first saw them and they played Tweakers, I was like, holy shit. And then watching the energy of Jeebus, their bass player, I mean, he's doing the Les Claypool thing, with his
Yeah.
foot. And I'm like, damn, this is so, It's awesome.
Yeah, they were channeling. They were definitely channeling Blair and Les and Herb on that one because they were. It was like being at a show, a Primus show. That is. But yeah, they covered a lot of stuff. They covered Prison Sex by Tool. They covered YYZ.
Yeah.
He said that was an ambitious cover at the first one, and I was like, and then they started playing YYZ.
Right.
And I looked over and I was like, that's an ambitious cover. I was
they
like,
they nailed all of
and they
those.
nailed them. I was like, man.
I was so stoked.
Yeah, that was a good
It
set.
was so cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, who wants to go next?
First albums?
Yeah, what album?
The one that sticks out to me is Iron Maiden, Peace of Mind.
Ooh.
So I was just getting into metal.
Nice.
We go back to artwork. I could stare at that album cover for hours, just finding little things.
Yeah.
And we do that with our album covers as well. And just the storytelling and the drums, Nico McBrain, just the drums on that just spoke to me as well.
Sure.
And the storytelling. And that was my first real concert, Fastway and Iron Maiden. That tour, Peace of Mind tour.
I think that really I want to see Iron Maiden. If they tour again, I'm definitely going to that.
Yeah.
Plus, there's an Eddie involved. So
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That always makes it better when there's an Eddie involved.
Yeah.
Danny?
So one out. If I have to narrow it down to one, that's so hard. Gosh, I guess it would probably have to be American Idiot, not to keep talking about punk rock.
That's
but,
all right.
That's
your thing, man. Do it.
It's I think because there's been so many albums. I mean, a lot in the metal world as well that have really just shaped, what I really like and what I like to write and play and listen to. But I think it would all be traced back to that album simply because I was so young when I first heard it, and then also just the writing on it is really, really incredible. I mean, you have the variance in like how, or the variety in how they produced all of the songs differently. I mean, you could listen to that album a bunch of times and always find something new. I mean, I believe, and I don't know for sure, but I think like at one point they were doing like acoustic guitar like beneath the electric guitar. Like it's so layered. The production is so layered and intricate.
Interesting.
And then the songwriting is so narrative based, I guess. Like it tells stories. I mean, a lot of it almost feels like a punk rock version of like some Queen songs where it's just like, and the buildup is so grand, and then the payoff and the establishment of like tension and relief throughout the album. Like if you listen to it from the beginning to the end, it just has all these crazy ups and downs, and that was a hell of an album to really put me on to just like heavier music in general. Like I know it's not really that heavy, like, but it's like
a gateway.
Yeah, it's definitely like a gateway, and
Absolutely.
that kind of like opened up so many different avenues for me to explore. And it just made me love the sound of the guitar. And yeah, I think it would probably have to be that album. So really influential on just like my overall music taste and everything like that. So
Now that you're in the band, and everybody has a different, preferred genre, I would say. Are you listening to anything that these guys have turned you into or onto, rather?
I'm trying to think.
And vice versa.
I think I've started to explore like a bit more Tool songs. I know Eddie loves Tool.
Yeah.
Primus. I need to like really dig deeper into a lot of that stuff. But I think I can see now when I listen to those songs, I'm like, oh yeah, I see why Eddie likes this, because Eddie likes to write with like, for example, a lot of times people do 4s. We like to do 3s. Just to kind of like change it up, so something will not repeat 4 times. Like in music, so many things are 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. Everything's 4. Yeah. But sometimes we'll do 3, 6, 7, 1. Sometimes like in this new song that we've been working on, there's one riff that plays and it never plays again in the whole song. And and when I wrote that, I was like, oh, it would be cool if like we did this cool riff and then it never comes back, but you don't even notice it never comes back.
Right.
So if you want to hear it, you have to play it again. No, but
right.
But yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually if a song comes out too simple, I'm like, you know what, we're going to have to only play this one 2.5 times.
Yeah.
And then play the other half down there later and play the other 3.5 on the end of the song just because it's too easy.
Yeah. When I first came with that song, I remember you were like, okay, no, we're gonna have to like chop this up a little bit, because it was the core was similar to what it is now still, but it's like it was definitely like very like straightforward, and then now we've definitely HellPie-ified it.
Yeah, HellPie-ified.
Kind of.
That's in the dictionary.
Yeah, kind of like made it just more interesting, and so.
That's a great question, because I of course have heard Primus and their hit songs, but Eddie got me deeper into them. Faith No More, stuff like that. System of a Down. Wow, they're good, but I really didn't dig deep into them until we started jamming it, like some of the covers and getting to know Ed better. Yeah. And trying to figure out, why is he writing this way? Oh, I understand. Because I listened to his taste in music.
Yeah, it explains a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
This is You Never Know Until You Know. And when you know, you know you know. Shit.
Yeah, it gets weirder too. I just try to give you guys the PG-13 weird stuff. We can go really weird and into Phantomus and Mr. Bungle and
That-
that cut. and stuff, but-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think like if you're a Primus fan, you're definitely going to like Mr. Bungle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But that, yeah, I mean, there's just so much weird stuff. Like, you've heard Phantomus, right?
Yeah. I've seen him live.
Right. Okay. So I saw him open for Tool at MCI Center.
So did I. We
So
were at the same show.
that show. And before that show, I was like, this Phantomus thing's cool, but there's no fucking way that they can do this live.
Yeah.
And we were on the
And-
floor and they did it. And I was like, I can't believe that.
And they
I
did.
can't believe that just happened. And nothing caught on fire. Like,
You like Tomahawk?
it was, yeah, they're good too. And that's, it's cool because the way that band works is completely different than the way Phantomus works.
Yep.
And so it's like, you can see like how being in different situations makes the role different, which is, I like Tomahawk. They're more of like a band.
Yeah.
Like
I-
Mr. Bungle's more like a bunch of like, like composers just trying to outdo each other with how weird their shit is.
Right.
Which is cool, which is make it cool, but it's like, they're not really, I don't think that I look at them as like a band. They're more like, I'm not going to even try to play your music. I'll
Yeah.
just sit here and appreciate it.
Anything Mike Patton does, I'm there because I'm also a big Faith No More fan, and so yeah, Mr. Bungle, anything he does. But is there anything that Danny or Bones has brought along that you're like, oh well, yeah, I dig this.
Yeah, I don't think I was much of a Mudvayne fan as
Mhm.
much as Bones was really into him, and I'd heard him and I thought they were pretty cool, but I took a more of a listen to him, and it's like kind of up my alley because they do time signature changes,
Yeah.
like stuff that's like it shouldn't work but it does, like then you get into like Meshuggah and stuff like that
Uh-huh.
where you got the drummer playing in one time signature and the music playing in another, but it still checks in with each other. So there's stuff like that I like, and then I don't think I was necessarily on to Mudvayne until
I drove
we
it
went
in
to
his
a,
head.
we went to a couple of shows. We went to a show at Ram's Head or something. But I mean, that kind of goes back to like even Soundgarden. Like when Soundgarden came out, you were like, why does that song repeat there?
Mm-hmm.
And it still works. And so you start there with like the weird time stuff, and then you got Tool, which I think most of their stuff is in 5/8 or
Yeah.
something.
It's sometimes, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's
Right. So
Yeah.
it's like
sometimes
you
it's
start
a combination of things.
yeah. And then like there's I think Blackened is in 11/13 or some crap.
Really?
They said, I forgot what it was, but yeah, like the intro, the way the drums
Ah,
actually flip halfway through, it's in some weird.
right.
So there's lots of ways to like be exposed to it, but yeah, I think it started kind of around the Soundgarden time when I started really appreciating like things not being cookie cutter
Yeah.
4/4 all the time. But
The question is, are they thought out that way or just jam and you find out later, oh, that was in a crazy time signature?
yeah,
I think
I
for a
think
band
that's-
like Tool, it's definitely planned.
yeah.
I think for us, it's just, oops.
That's cool. Yeah.
We did
Oops,
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like when I'm playing a riff and I'm like, it's that's not flipping where I want it to flip, and then I change it, and then we go try to count it out, and we're like, yeah, that's weird, but it works, so let's keep it. And then because I don't really count things, he counts things.
Right.
Yeah, you don't have to.
I don't really count them. I'm just like, yeah, that's gonna do this there and that there, and I'm gonna
Right.
sing here and there. But
Yeah.
if I try to count and underneath all that, I might as well. It's not gonna work for me. I can't juggle and count at the same time.
Right. All right. So last question. What HellPie song are you the most proud of, and why? Which one is the one that you're like, if I'm going to submit this song for the Library of Congress, let's say. What's that song that you're submitting?
I have no idea. What do you think, Bones?
EVP touched a lot of people, and it's one of our slower songs. but again, tells a great story. Eddie tells a great story in it. It's about the paranormal, which I think everyone has a bit of interest in.
Sure.
Had a catchy chorus. My mom loves it, so that's a plus.
Well, if your mom loves it, then
right.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's not too far away from the core songs you hear. But yeah, I think that one as a crossover.
Okay.
That it could reach everybody. Like if we play like when we played your show.
Sure.
With a vast different genres. I think we didn't play the song, but it would have touched everybody.
Correct.
In some way, because it's got its heavy parts, melodic. It tells a story.
Muldier has a song that's very similar to EVP. So
yeah.
So it was pretty funny because I was listening to their sets the first time I saw them live, and I was like, dude, half of your songs, I'm like, are they about to play my song? And he's like, dude, I thought the same thing when you guys played. I was like, yeah.
That's
so
sweet.
we're like, our writing is really close. It's kind
that'd
of
be
funny.
a great tour. Muldier
and
HellPie.
that fantastic. Let's do it because, and they're also very much into like, you know, topics that they talk about. They're very real, you know, just like y'all songs. So I think, I'll go. I'll pack my things.
Yeah,
Let's,
right.
you know,
Yeah.
I'll follow you guys around.
Yeah. Sorry, I changed the subject.
Yeah, I think
So songs.
EVP is one of our best songs.
We even redid it on the acoustic album. Added banjo.
As far as the Library of Congress goes, I don't know.
Idiots are everywhere.
Idiots are everywhere. Would probably be better for that one. Yeah.
You spoke about Beltway driving. You go back to Infernal Slice. Idiots are everywhere.
Yeah.
And you might get a ticket. Try not to road rage. I actually should help with road
Actually, that's what I mean by Beltway driving is because it actually helps me not to, you know, sideswipe people. Like, get out of my way.
So EVP, that was like the one song on the album that we were like, so if someone comes up and is like, oh, you know, what song, say it's a girl asks me, what song should I listen to first? I'm like, EVP. Go listen to that.
Aww.
And then you buy the album and then you're like, wait, the rest of this is crap.
Oh, stop it.
So
Stop it.
So we did the same thing with Love to Burn. We made a song called On Our Own, which was like, all right, we're going to have to make an EVP-esque song for this album too. So we did. And I hadn't listened to it in a long time and it came up on my iTunes rotation. And I was like, man, that's actually a really good song. Like we should play that one again. But it's very comparable to EVP. But we were like, yeah, we need a song like that on every album.
Yeah. You'd mentioned Mutating Radiation earlier.
Yeah.
That's actually in a video game that was released about a year ago. Didn't do super well. They're just a small developer out of Germany.
What's the name of the video game?
It's called
HellPie.
That's right. Because, that makes sense because I can't remember. I think it was right before the anniversary show. So the Maryland Music Scene anniversary show. I went looking for something for you guys online.
Right.
And I didn't put band. I just put HellPie, all one word.
Yeah.
But then this HellPie kept recurring and it was videos and stuff. And I'm seeing it, you know, and I'm like, yeah, but that's not it. So then I put band, HellPie band, you know, and then it brought me to your Bandcamp and all your stuff.
We used to be the only HellPie, which was great. Just Google HellPie. There we are.
So did they find you because of your band name? Did they reach out to you?
We found them.
I keep track of all the business on the internet, and they popped up. I was like, wait. So I went and looked, and I was like, this could be a good collaboration.
Hell
Let's not fight it. And I didn't want to be any issues with the name. So say, hey, could we be a part of the game? And they came back and like, well, we already have a developer. So but he was like, let's see if we can get you an Easter egg.
Right.
Well, it turned out we're in a portion as the little devil's going through the supermarket. You hear Mutating Radiation playing.
That's
and
awesome.
it's through the music aisle of the mall.
Yeah.
It's actually a mall. Yeah.
And so they threw us in as an Easter egg. And I was like, yeah,
that's
pretty
so
cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
we're we're going down in history now. You can't get rid of digital.
Yep.
No.
You really can't.
Yeah, so that's on all platforms. HellPie, Hell Space Pie.
Yes.
And we,
It looked like a fun game.
yeah,
I may have to go play this now, just
Yeah.
so I can find the.
I don't know how
Easter
you
egg.
get it.
Yeah.
Probably
on
wasn't it
Steam.
supposed to be
It's
on
on-
Switch?
it's
Oh,
on
it's
Steam and Switch, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's where most people get games now.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah,
awesome guy.
just keeping it on tune with everything that's going out there.
Sure.
And trying to, like, we weren't going to fight it. We were going to try to be a part of it.
And I
Yep.
mean,
And we at
Yeah.
least wanted a free issue, but like I said, they were out of Germany, and we didn't want to deal with the shipping costs.
It's like either we join them or we have hire a lawyer to send them a, what is it called? A
Cease and
and
desist.
desist order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's not our thing.
yeah. No, I mean, collaboration is that's what we're here for.
Yeah,
Right.
who knows how they even came up with the idea to call it HellPie? Maybe they heard our band already.
And it's a
Yeah.
little devil too.
Yeah.
Right,
It's
yeah.
funny.
Yeah. And then, like you talked about collaboration, the collaboration with Southern Maryland music scene,
Mhm.
the local artists, the local photographers, all the great clubs down here. It really is a great scene.
Yeah.
I've been in Southern Maryland for too many years.
It's a community.
And I've seen it all. And just the community, especially in the last 5 years, has just gelled with
Yeah.
thanks of Aaron and all those guys.
Absolutely. Hi, Aaron.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He's one of my inspirations. I've told him this. He's one of my inspirations for building community. It's
Right.
like, okay, I mean, when you have allies, it's so much easier to just, go at it, right?
Right.
But yeah, he's completely been an inspiration to me to like, yeah, let's do shows where don't get me wrong, I love my metal shows. They're like my therapy.
Mhm.
Jazz and metal. If I go to any one of those, I'm good for like a whole week where I'm not like, anxious and whatnot. But because you all take care of that for me, right? For the hour or 2 hours or whatever, But let's have crossover shows, cross pollination. I am all about doing cross pollination
Yeah.
at all times.
Right.
I love the community down here, and I love that you guys are part of this community. And I can't wait to continue to see you guys playing live, and I can't wait for the new album.
Mhm.
Really excited.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much for agreeing to sit down with me, have this conversation.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can't wait to see more of you guys.
Thanks so much
All
for
right.
having
Thanks
us.
for having
Thank
us.
you.
Absolutely.
Como se
Okay.
dice Blade.
¿Cómo se dice blade? Blade? Se dice blade.